This is a video to show how a number of keyboard controls can minimize the effort and time often used in using the mouse. The difficulty, of course, with using the mouse is that one has to look where one is actually going very carefully and sort of aim things. Please look at the cursor, and you see, for example, if you want to highlight that, you have to go like that. If you delete that and you wanted to undo that, most people would spend time going up here and hitting that button there. So what's happening when one is actually doing that is hands are moving off the keyboard, eyes are invariably moving away from the text, and that takes some slight degree of mental effort, but it all adds up if you have a very long document to do. Another thing that people do is, if they want to underline that, they would do that with the mouse, and then they would hit either the U there, or sometimes I see people going up here and looking up there and then clicking that and that sort of thing. And when they want to undo that, they will then do that. Okay, now the way I would do that is to just do Control Z. So my hands are still on the keyboard, and I'm seeing what's going on when I do the Control Y, which is to redo, or the Control Z to undo. Okay, now in this document there are a number of words in speech marks that one might want to italicize, and that could become quite effortful if you have to do that sort of thing each time. So the way I would do this is to use the keyboard, and I would do Control Shift and select that and do Control I. Okay, and that's what I'm doing here. But before I go too deep into a load of keyboard shortcuts, I want to first of all start with what you actually see here. Now this is your document view, and a lot of folk want to see an overview of the document, and so what they tend to do is to follow my mouse. They go up here and they look for like view, and you know, they do stuff here like zoom, and you know, select stuff like that, and then it's all wrong, you know, and they then have to go back up there. So there is a simple way to change your document view, and that is pressing the Control button and scrolling with your mouse out if you have a middle button on your mouse. If you don't have a middle button on your mouse, then you could be in a bit of difficulty, and I won't go into alternatives on that. But you could see here that it's easy to kind of overview the document, and this avoids having to print the document to see what it looks like. So this is a pretty neat little trick to actually get a quick overview of what's going on. So what I'm going to do now is to look into some keyboard shortcuts, and I have put them together in various groups that seem to make sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to others as well. So the first thing when people open a document, And the way to open a new document is to press Control and N. Quickly the document comes up, and as you see here it says document 1. Now some people begin typing inside there. That is a bad idea. The first thing to do is to save this document, and to do that you do Control and S. Okay, so it's attempting to save somewhere, and basically find where you want to save it and make sure it's a place where you can find it later on. After saving that document, you can then return and start typing and do Control and S repeatedly, and I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. Now I'm going to close this down by doing Control and F4. It's gone. Now in here, if I was to type anything in like that and I wanted to save this document intermittently, all I had to do was Control and S and it's done. Now some Windows Microsoft Word documents have an autosave already set up, but it's not perfect, and I highly recommend using Control and S to save the document intermittently. So now you've written a bunch of text and you need to move around inside here to add some words in between. After reading it, you want to add some words, and I'm just using Alice in Wonderland as it's standard text available on the net. So I'll type some rough stuff in there just to show people. So your cursor is there and you want to get to the end of the line, and basically you hit the word, the keyboard control for end. Now you want to get to the next paragraph. The way to do that is to go down, Control arrow down. Now if you also wanted to move across in the words, you don't need to pick up the mouse, just Control arrow moves things along. Okay. Now later on we'll add Shift to all of this. So if you wanted to select words, you can do Control Shift arrow left or Control Shift arrow right, and you could do various things with that, such as cut it out, like Control X, and then you could paste it back somewhere else, like there. I'm just doing that for demonstration purposes. And if I don't like any of that, the Control Z brings back everything. And I'm doing a Control S just to make sure I've saved the document. So now your document has ended up being very long and you want to get to near the end, say to enter your signature. That's easy. You do Control End, and there you can enter your name and whatever you want. If you were doing a letter, you'd put yours sincerely and so on. Okay, and if you want to get back to the top, you do Control Home. So the next common thing that people should do or have to do is to spell check their document, and that is easily done by pressing F7 on the keyboard, and you could then click on that or do the grammar check. Now I touched on basic formatting, like making italics, and then the next one is of course bolding text. One can select text with the mouse like that, or if one is around here, then you do your Control arrow across, select some words, and you want to bold that, you do Control B. And if you want to bold and underline it, you do Control B. You just do the Control U as much as you like. You can get across here and do like that. And the main thing is my hands are still on the keyboard and my eyes are looking at the document. So that takes away effort and mental energy being spent. So now the next important thing is about selecting text. It's not common to need to select all text in a document, but if you do Control A, it selects everything. You can just press Escape or click a mouse somewhere, and it'll remove the selection. Now, let's say we want to select text. The Shift button becomes important in addition to some of the other control buttons. So you just add Control and Shift, and let's say arrow right selects that. Okay. Now if you want to select to the left, again, I'm just going to the end here. I just press the button End, like that is how you do that. If I'm at the end of a line and I want to select the whole line, I just do Shift Home. Okay. And if I'm there and I want to do to the end of the line, I just do Shift End and it'll select the whole line. So if I wanted to move those words, and it might have been at the end of a sentence, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll do Control X and remove it. And then I could come to the end of the paragraph like there, and I can stick that in like that with a Control V. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, a bunch of basic keyboard shortcuts, minimizing the use of the mouse as much as possible, and that needs practice. The biggest hurdle will be the urge to do what you previously did. But if you keep a cheat sheet of shortcuts nearby and practice them over several days or weeks, it will come so naturally. Thanks for looking on.